Have you attempted to install gas logs, a gas hot water heater, perhaps a gas stove, etc., into your home? And everything is installed and purportedly configured so that everything should work well. And you attempt to fire the pilot light up or the to get the flame going, and nothing happens. Well, there could be a point if you hear it make a noise like and no pilot is lighting. You may want to check your other fixtures, your heating and air, your other gas fixtures, and see if some little gadget that looks, this is a little scrappy drawing, but something along this line's a gas regulator. If you see one of these gas regulators on another fixture within the house, and incidentally, I think they want you to, when I say they, I'm not sure who the powers that be are, but the supposedly, if you need a regulator, my opinion is I've heard that you're supposed to put a regulator for each particular unit, not one regulator in a manifold down ways, but there are different ways to skin a cat, and I've seen a lot of different ideas. So, notwithstanding, basically, let's just say this is the gas regulator. Well, if you've got a 2-pound meter on, say, if you go to put some gas logs in and you have a gas furnace or a gas hot water heater and you see one of these feeding it, whether it be under the house or if it's a package unit, it could be outside on a line feeding in the outside. And this is big enough to hold in the palm of your hand for the 1/2 inch. And so, for instance, okay, if you see these, that may be a telltale sign that you have a 1/2 pound meter. If you have excuse me, let me stand to correct myself. If you have a 2-pound meter, if you see this, if you do not see this, then you may have a 1/2 pound meter. If you have a 1/2 pound meter, you may not need a regulator. So if you don't see any regulator on anything, I would probably, my opinion is I would call the utilities company and ask them, do you have a 2-pound meter or a 1/2 pound meter? So, but if you have a 2-pound meter, you're going to need something like this, and it's going to be, there's no use to overly complicate something that's very simple. So 2-pound, let's just say 2 psi, pounds per square inch. Like you put X amount of air in your tires, that's just psi along the same kind of thinking. Okay, your inlet side would be 2 psi. Okay, when it goes through this regulator, when it exits this regulator, it needs to be somewhere in the range of 7 to 11 water columns. Okay, this is the exit side. So this is water columns is lower pressure than PSI. So when we have this regulator here, we're coming in at the lingo in the industry is they call it a 2-pound meter, but just think of it as 2 PSI. Okay, at 2 PSI inlet side. This is where the gas is coming from, say for it's coming from the meter. And you may have a regulator on the meter too. But don't be fooled. A friend said, his buddy says, you don't need one of these because you got a regulator on the meter. Well, that's not necessarily true because that meter could be bumping it up down from a higher pressure down to this pressure. So that's so anyway, in this situation on a 1/2 inch line, say if we have 2 psi coming in on the inlet side on this regulator, and this is a generalized statement. This is not exact science in my opinion, but okay. So when we come in at 2 psi and we exit at 7 to 11, so the average unit in your house, your gas furnace, gas logs, etc., it will need somewhere in the range. It may be plus or minus. It's difficult to make a universal statement and say everything, an exact science here, but we're going to say 7 and 11, between 7 and 11 plus or minus should be fine. If it's over that, it may not work. If it's under that, it may not work. If it's under it, it may flame out and you may not have a flame. If it's over it, you may hear a strong gas like, and the pilot might not light. So, but my opinion is always deal with an expert, but make sure first, if I shouldn't say first, but just make sure that if you see one of these regulators on the other units, that's a telltale sign. I would call your utilities company and ask them, do you have a 2-pound, half-pound meter? And sometimes you have to step it up from the call center to the tech support and find out the tech support. They may ask you more details on numbers or something like this, and they can maybe give you extrapolate the data from there. But really, generally speaking, it's very simple. We come in at 2 psi on a half-pound meter. This is the inlet side. And there's a little cap on here. One can maybe adjust it to a certain degree. I think they're maybe preset at a certain standard. But when you exit, you're exiting between 7 and 11 WC, water columns. And just think of water columns as lower pressure than PSI. It's nothing more fancy. There are scientific formulas, and you can get with a college professor, and he can explain how they come up with the term water columns. I have seen it, but it's too detailed to extrapolate that data here. But 2 psi to 7 to 11 water columns, and if everything's installed properly, it may work great. And so anyway, thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.